Hello and welcome to a Fantasy Points Underdog Best Ball Draft. Once again, Fantasy Points, we got this covered with the help of Underdog. But before we go anywhere, if you want to get that Fantasy Points subscription, head over there right now. It's fantasypoints.com. Use promo code Vipers22 and get 10% off that subscription there. That's if you haven't renewed. If you're looking to get in there for the first time, tell them Matt sent you and we'll get you hooked up there. Now, we want to get into this best ball here because it's filling up pretty darn quick already. So one of those other things here, when you're looking at getting into best ball, when you're getting into Underdog, use promo code FANTASYPTS today, and they will match 100% up to $100 right now. That's like $100 free dollars right now. If you look at the Best Ball Mania going on right now, that's like 4 entries to the Best Ball Mania for free, and anything free is worth saving up for. Looks like we got a little bit of time here. Looks like that last draft just filled up right now, so we got a little bit of time here there, Swags. So joining me on today's show, a true Philly special there, now residing in the beautiful state of Florida, Sam Wagman. How you doing, Swaggy?
I'm doing well today, Matt. How are you? I mean, for me, underdog drafts are just the best way to go around mock drafting, and I'm thrilled to be able to come on here, do one on stream with you, but I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I see you've already entered the draft room there already.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, I guess I better get on that right now too. So been kind of waiting for that good old-fashioned countdown, the 3, 2, 1. Let's go. So it looks like we are in here right now. And of course, hey, I'm looking forward to this. I just came off a best ball draft there the other night with fellow Fantasy Points members there in Joe Dolan and Graham Barfield. And I'll tell you what, when you get so many great minds in one room, there is no value to be had. There's different strategies that you want to put into place. But at every turn, at every draft pick, that strategy, it changes.
Yeah, and especially in an underdog draft like that, where there's so many sharp minds. You also saw people like Josh Larkey was in there, Dwayne McFarland was in there, a bunch of other sharp best ball minds and fantasy drafters as well. And in a draft like that, it's so hard to kind of find value. And, to be able to do that is just, in that kind of room is very difficult. So, the teams looked great. I know your team looked great out there as well. So, I'm just happy to be able to get into this lobby where it's not going to be as sharp, and we can go ahead and start drafting here momentarily as we wait for the last 4 or 5 spots to fill up here.
So we talk about strategies all the time when it comes to these best ball drafts here on Underdog. Have you found something that kind of works for you that you're going to try and put into place in this draft in particular? Or are you kind of like me where you're that gorilla meme there where you got to pick up something off the ground and just kind of throws it, hopes it kind of sticks to the wall? Because that's basically been my main strategy here for most of these drafts so far.
Yeah, so for me, I've seen my strategy kind of fluctuate a little bit depending on what tournament I'm in. Usually for, kind of the Best Ball Mania and the puppy tournaments, I focus more on trying to stack and, get some of that week 16 and 17 correlation in there. But for a tournament like this, we are in the $3 12-man, where it's just a season long and there's no tournament value to it. I just want the players with the most points. I'll stack where I can find stacks, but they're not as important to me in a, more comfortable, relaxed setting such as this draft.
There you go. The most important part of fantasy football, drafting the players that score the most points. Yeah. Thank you, Swags, for that insight right there. Now, when we talk about this draft in particular, Swags, would you mind just kind of letting the people know what kind of draft we're in? 1 QB, super flex. What do we got going on here today?
Yeah, so Underdog runs on a 0.5 PPR scale. You start with 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and 2 flex spots. And then you have a bench of, I want to say it's 9. And the way Underdog works is that you don't have to set a lineup. It sets the optimal lineup for you every single week based on the points that your players score. And at the end of the season, everything gets all totaled up. And in this kind of format, the team with the most points in the league wins.
So I see the draft order here. It's already kind of been put out there. Looks like I got the 103. You're a little bit further down. Do you kind of have a preference where you like to be picking at? Where do you think the most value kind of falls to you in these kind of drafts?
Yeah. So, I'm okay anywhere in this draft. I like to find value no matter where I am in the draft order. I will say with me at the 102, I kind of like that. It gives me pretty much my pick of my top 5 guys after Jonathan Taylor goes off the board at 101, like he does in pretty much 90% of drafts, like he did right there. And for me, I'm going to look for a little bit of stability in this. You know, I tend to go Christian McCaffrey in a lot of things, but to diversify myself, I like to spice things up. And I did see something about Jamar Chase. I was talking with some of the people on fantasy Twitter today, and honestly, the way Jamar Chase is looking, he really can be as low as wide receiver 8, and he can have one of the best wide receiver seasons in history. So I want points in this underdog format, and I'm going for the sick upside with Jamar Chase there.
Yeah, so we've got the first few picks there: Jonathan Taylor, Jamar Chase, Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp. No big shockers right there. Again, if you're new to Underdog right now, and if you want to get in on these, use promo code FANTASYPTS and get $100 up to $100 matched right now. If you want to put down $25, Underdog will put down $25. If you want to put down $50, they got you for $50. $100, no problem. $100 there as well. Right after Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, pretty much the first 5 players that have been going off every single board, every single draft. Now, I know we talked about that Jamar Chase there at 102. If you were going Christian McCaffrey at 102, Jamar Chase was my pick because I was also looking at that same kind of thread, the same conversation there, in which basically he is coming off that great rookie season, right up there with the Randy Moss, Anquan Bolden type years that we've seen there, except with those guys, they had a bit of a regression as far as fantasy points is concerned. I don't think we're going to see that with Jamar Chase because I think he's going to get even more target share. That Bengals offense is going to look better this year with that improved offensive line. Joe Burrow's going to take even less sacks in year number 2 here in this offense. I mean, things are looking good for that Bengals offense right now, aren't they?
Yep. Yeah, and absolutely. And especially if you remember during, kind of after Chase had that really hot start to the start of the season, he cooled off a little bit in the middling weeks. I can't remember, but I believe it was weeks 8 to 12 where he only scored about 6 or 7 points per game. And then he had that massively hot end to the season to close out the fantasy season. So, I mean, if he's more consistent this time around, and obviously the Bengals are, going to throw more, I think Joe Burrow in his second year back from the ACL injury, I think we see him do more and take more of a role in this offense. And I think Chase can only go up in his mastery of this game. It just looked so effortless for him. And, we always hear guys and receivers especially talk about the game slowing down for them in that second season. And there's a good chance that that's exactly what it does for Chase. I can't even imagine what the game looks like slowed down for Jamar Chase after his rookie season. But if there's anyone that can post ceilings after the season that he had, it's him.
So now we're officially through the first round here. After Justin Jefferson went off the board, Austin Eckler, Stephon Diggs, Derrick Henry, DeAndre Swift, Najee Harris, Dalvin Cook, and then Devontae Adams and Travis Kelce there at the turn there, 112 and 201. Any big shockers there so far coming off the board?
Yeah, it was a little bit surprising to see DeAndre Swift go up there at the 109 ahead of Najee Harris and Dalvin Cook, and you still see Joe Mixon on the board there as well. I think DeAndre Swift is set for a really big role, so I can see it justified. I think there's some safer options. I personally would have Cook and Harris both ahead of Swift, but in this format again, you're looking for upside, and Swift presents some crazy upside there.
Yeah, I think we've just seen the big 7 wide receivers now all come off the board with CeeDee Lamb, then followed by Mike Evans. There's kind of that tier break there when it comes to CeeDee Lamb. I just want to touch on Cooper Kupp. We talk about how good Jamar Chase was, going back to that Cooper Kupp selection here. I think if he had like a 25% regression kind of thing, he still would have had the 3rd most fantasy points based on last year's numbers. So if you're looking for those sure things, I mean, you can't necessarily win these best ball drafts or your fantasy football drafts in the first couple rounds, but you sure can lose them with a couple bad picks here. So after Mike Evans, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, 2 of my favorite running backs here, kind of coming off the board. Looks like running backs and wide receivers kind of split pretty evenly so far. I don't know if you have an opportunity here after your next pick, just kind of flash the main board up there for everyone to take a quick peek at it.
Yes, I can. Let's see here.
So while you're trying to get that on, I just want to remind everyone who's watching here right now, make sure to head over to fantasypoints.com, because right now they've got this awesome series out there, the Franchise Focus, and you're basically getting Graham Barfield's pace and tendency, Scott Barrett's strength of schedule, John Hansen's final points there, Wes Huber's dynasty buy lows. You get data points there. You get projected fantasy contributors. I mean, it's like a one-stop shop. So if you're going to head into one of these best ball drafts, it doesn't hurt to get a little bit of reading in ahead of time. It looks like I'm coming up here on the clock, and I'm sitting here, and I don't want – Saquon Barkley was kind of the guy I was kind of looking for, because he's looking pretty good here so far the preseason. I'm buying the hype, but the one guy I'm going to go with here right now is going to be Alvin Kamara in the second round. We've watched his value kind of move up here in the recent weeks, as it sounds like that suspension is becoming less and less, if it even happens this season at all. I've talked to a few different people here in regards to his situation, Drew Davenport, some guys who know the legal system a little bit better than what I do, and they are not expecting much of a suspension at this point. That doesn't mean things can't change, but right now, things are looking good for Kamara and those who kind of draft him. So I feel pretty good back into the second, grabbing him right there.
Yep. And right after you grabbed Kamara, who I am starting to soften on as well, I grabbed Leonard Fournette. And as you can tell, I am not at all put off by the recent news about him going up to 260 pounds. And it is still the middle of July. I'll be much more worried if he shows up that way to training camp. I'm also going to go Javonte Williams here, because I do believe in that Denver offense. I do believe that even if we start the season out and see, kind of a 55-45, 60-40 split between him and Melvin Gordon, I think it'll be near 70-30 by the end of the regular season, if it's even that, because, no way to put it. Javonte Williams is 21 years old. Melvin Gordon is 30. And no matter how you slice it, they signed Melvin Gordon back for a paltry $1 million contract. Javonte Williams is the guy who is breaking expected tackles records and, racking up insane efficiency numbers. So this is his backfield, and he's one of the most talented backs in the NFL.
And I went with another running back there. Javonte Williams was going to be my selection there, so I feel okay with Nick Chubb. Now I've got my three running backs basically now out of the way. I can focus on the wide receiver position, and I was really debating then, after you have Javonte Williams, between Nick Chubb and Keenan Allen in the third round, and I don't think I'm going to get that advantage at the wide receiver position with Keenan Allen right here. I think there's some good value that's going to get pushed down the board a little bit later here as far as the wide receivers are going, but we're watching guys right now to start this third round. T. Higgins, then obviously Williams and Nick Chubb went off the board. Keenan Allen, Cam Akers, DJ Moore, who I absolutely love this season. I think with Baker Mayfield's deep ball completion rate with DJ Moore, I think more than 4 touchdowns is finally going to happen for DJ Moore this season. And then Michael Pittman there, the next guy off the board. We see some of these builds going on right now. We got some heavy running back ones there. We got some 0 RB ones kind of going out there. Have you found one strategy work a little bit better for you so far through your best balls?
Honestly, I have to admit, I'm not much of a experimenter when I go into my drafts, as far as, going 0 running back, 0 wide receiver. I'm pretty balanced. I always have been. I'm that kind of guy who likes to start off his draft with 2 running backs if he can. But, honestly, the only times I've experimented are in places where I've absolutely had to. I do feel that grabbing at least one strong anchor running back who can take you all the way through is absolutely the way that you have to attack these underdog drafts, because these running backs do shift the board for you if you're able to hit on them. But it is great to grab these wide receivers with insane upside, which is, again, why you can advocate for taking 3 of them in that top 5 range. So, there's a lot of ways to do this. It seems stupid for me to just say draft the best players and you'll win. That's literally what, the past 2 winners of the Best Ball Mania tournament have done. They've drafted the best players, but they've also drafted, relied on a little bit of luck when it comes to in-season injuries and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, that's what happens in the NFL. Guys get hurt. It happens, but you have to plan and game plan for that. And that means picking up guys' handcuffs in the 10th, 11th round. So, like you said, you can't really lose your draft or you can't win your draft in the beginning of the draft. You can certainly lose it by drafting guys who are a little too risky there, though.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of risk. I kind of like to play it safe for the most part until we get into about that 6th round. Then it's about shooting for that upside, grabbing those rookies. I mean, we talk about every year. This is the fun thing about the wide receiver position. If you look last year, I think 6 of the top 12 wide receivers weren't even ranked in the top 12 entering the 2021 season. So it just kind of shows you that the diversity there in the position that, you know what, you're going to have some good wide receivers. We're going to predict them as is, but there's going to be some guys that come out of nowhere that are going to be great values for your fantasy teams moving forward. And I'm looking at the wide receivers here right now, and one of my favorite guys is always going to be Brandon Cooks. I mean, that doesn't change from one day to the other. He's definitely going to be one of those guys I always try and get at, but he's also seeing his value shoot up through the roof here recently as well. So he's not quite the same value that you're getting in the 7th round previously. And these ones here where you only get to select one quarterback, he's been kind of pushed up that board drastically in recent drafts that I've seen at least. Yeah. And there's another one that just came off the board that we've seen hype going on there. Rashad Bateman, followed by Terry McLaurin, who seems to be that guy. If there's a guy who's going to be able to crack that top 12 that's not currently in that top 12, that could very well be Terry McLaurin in 2022.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. McLaurin is going to get his best quarterback in Carson Wentz finally, and you can come at us all you want saying Carson Wentz isn't a good quarterback. He'll do some boneheaded things, but you can't say that he's not better than Taylor Heineke and Ryan Fitzpatrick and all the others that have come before Wentz here. I was really hoping that Darren Waller would go off the board so I didn't have to pick him. I think I'm just going to go take George Kittle instead.
Oh, that's weak. That's weak. I know you were hyping Darren Waller. I know you wanted to get in on that Waller situation there. Now, are you backing up because maybe you got too much Waller somewhere else? I know a lot of people in these best balls, they want to kind of control their shares elsewhere as well. You don't want too much of one player when you're going to these best balls, do you?
I definitely agree with that. You kind of want to be, in that 25 to 30% range. If you're very strong on a guy, these are for, from, guys who are doing, volume best ball drafts, kind of like, guys like James Brimacombe over at Football Guys who does that all the time. But you definitely want to be, diversified in your holdings here. And you know what? I'm gonna go for the bully tight end in this situation. You can use tight ends in a flex spot as well, and this works because I'm not really a fan of Allen Robinson this year at his cost. Brandon Cooks is there, but Darren Waller would be ranked above him in my eyes as well. And DK Metcalf, I'm just not sure about, and I wasn't sure of any of the other options on the board. So Waller made the most sense for me there in terms of adding to that room there. And bully tight end is a strategy that I like to frequent when I'm playing fantasy football in the last couple of years, as we've seen tight ends become more of a very top-heavy look. And, grabbing 2 of those top 5 guys is important.
Yeah, it definitely hurts when you look at value-based drafting there and you look at that positional disparity between wide receiver. Like now, when I just selected Deontay Johnson to Brandon Cooks, the difference in their production is not going to be that great. Now, when you look at from the tight ends, now the next tight end off the board, Dalton Schultz is maybe that guy, but a lot of people aren't quite buying into him. After you get through that first top 5, maybe 6 tight ends, there's a considerable drop-off at the position right now. So that's where you're kind of gaining that positional advantage moving forward in the season.
Yep, absolutely. And, like you said, it drops off disproportionately afterwards. And, this mid-tier of wide receivers, guys like Allen Robinson, DK Metcalf, Juju Smith-Schuster, Darnell Mooney, I'm just not sold on their ability, to contribute consistently this season. And if I had to pick one, it would be DK Metcalf. But the quarterback situation worries me a ton this season, and he hasn't slipped to a point. If I was later on in the 5th, this is exactly where I would be targeting him. But since I'm early on in the 5th, I just wasn't comfortable with it. He provides a nice ceiling, but a shockingly low floor this year.
Yeah, when we turn around here, we're in about the mid-5th. We're 5:08 right now. Looks like Posey just kind of ran out of time. Obviously, it's nice to get Kyler Murray is when you time out. I mean, that's not a bad thing to have there. But you look at this, we're in that kind of that – we've all heard about the running back dead zone, right? We've all talked about that. We've preached about it. that's kind of, we're in that zone right now too, but we're also in the wide receiver dead zone. You got Allen Robinson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Chris Godwin. So we're kind of looking at these names. Allen Robinson, first time back in Los Angeles there, getting to know this offense. Everything points that it should be a good bounce back year for him. I mean, injuries hurt a lot less in California than they do in Illinois. Let's be honest. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I don't think he's going to have that same target share here with all these weapons in Detroit. We talk about DJ Chark, Jameson Williams there, DeAndre Swift, TJ Hawkinson. I have a hard time believing that what we've seen from St. Brown, that back end of the season, is going to kind of move forward here to start at least this top of the season here. Chris Godwin, ACL injury. He just suffered that late in the season. It looks like he's supposed to be ready for training camp, which is just kicking off here right away, which is why you need to start reading those franchise focus series over at fantasypoints.com. Yep. And then we've got some other questionable guys there. So if Godwin's questionable, that means Russell Gage is questionable. If Russell Gage is questionable, obviously there's some other pieces around there. So there's a lot of questions in this area right now as far as where that value is truly going to come to.
Yep, and speaking of the stuff over at Fantasy Points, our own Scott Barrett released a stat piece earlier today, and it talked about kind of wide receiver by committees, and we talk about obviously our running back committees all the time, but something that we don't get to talk about just as much is some of these wide receiver committees where we're expecting guys to take a big step forward, and some of them guys like Gabe Davis come to mind, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Allen Robinson come to mind, but there are other options in these offenses, and those offenses tend to kind of consolidate targets together, and they don't, they spread them out. So those are some things that you have to worry about as well. Juju Smith-Schuster is another one to worry about as well. What does Kansas City's, offense look like without Tyreek Hill there? You can't imagine all of his targets are going right to Juju. They're going to be spread out. You have Marquez Valdes-Scantling there. You have still Travis Kelce is still there. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is there. So you have to think about that wide receiver committee room as well when you're looking at some of these, mid 20s, early 30s wide receivers in ADP as well.
We're also seeing a lot of these quarterbacks come off the board here now. We're kind of in that zone here in the 6th, 7th round. That's where I start to feel comfortable taking my quarterback. I'm not that guy to go out there and get Josh Allen. As good as Josh Allen is, and he's going to give you that top 3 number no matter how you want to look at it, I just can't get in on him where he's going currently. I mean, especially in a 1 QB league. So then I kind of look around, and there I was going to go Chris Godwin. That was kind of a quick snipe on me there. But you know what? I feel good about Elijah Moore as my 3rd wide receiver option. I don't think the Jets wide receiver room is getting nearly enough credit. I know the strength of schedule is not favorable for the Jets as far as wide receivers, tight ends, and quarterbacks are concerned, but there's something special about Elijah Moore. If he can keep himself healthy, the guy is going to make some big plays down the stretch, and I'm looking for upside now. I feel pretty good about the 3 wide receivers that I've had as target kind of guys: Deontay Johnson, Brandon Cooks, Elijah Moore. 2 of those 3 guys had high target shares last season. With Elijah Moore, would have had a lot higher if he would have been able to stay healthy.
Yep. And I like that we're kind of building very different teams here. You prioritized building out your wide receivers and running backs as balanced, while I've kind of gone, heavy tight end as well. And I was glad to be able to take Adam Thielen at the 6'11", where I think he's extremely undervalued there. I'm also going to take, this is tough, 2 of my favorite mid-round targets, but I am going to go with Russell Gage because I do believe he gets a bump off the expected missing of Chris Godwin there early. I am a believer in Russell Gage's talent. I don't think everyone else is, but I do think Gage will be a nice option throughout the season. You could see him kind of slotting into that wide receiver 3, Antonio Brown role, where he still has some spike weeks once Godwin comes back, because he's not going to be just right away. And I also like that Hopkins pick from you coming right back around, because this is still DeAndre Hopkins we're talking about. He's still probably one of the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL, and he should be able to show that once he comes back from that 6-week suspension.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second, because when he was healthy there last season, when he was playing, he was averaging about 19 fantasy points per contest. And the reason I felt comfortable enough grabbing DeAndre Hopkins here right now is I think the risk reward pays off for me here, because we got 3 wide receivers that we have to start, right? I mean, that's kind of how it breaks down. I feel comfortable with the 3 wide receivers that I already kind of have in place there. So Hopkins for me is kind of that flex play right now, and I still think there's still some value that could give me 6 weeks worth of value. When Hopkins returns, And this is where it gets big, is when I get that push down the backside of the stretch, there's going to be injuries that take place before Hopkins gets back. So there's going to be some guys that were selected ahead of him that are going to miss time after him when he comes back. So I feel that's kind of where you look at this risk reward type situation for DeAndre Hopkins. So now just a quick little breakdown here of what I kind of can see on my board here right now. And if I kind of go through it here real quick, from the 5th round on, it was kind of like we got some Patrick Mahomes, Darren Waller, Brandon Cooks, David Montgomery, J.K. Dobbins, Lamar Jackson, Darnell Mooney, Kyler Murray, DK Metcalf, Allen Robinson, A.J. Dillon, and Elijah Mitchell there kind of rounding it out there in the 5th. Antonio Gibson, Thielen, Elijah Moore, Chris Godwin, Russell Wilson, Joe Burrow, Dalton Schultz, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jalen Hurts, Josh Jacobs, Amari Cooper. That kind of filled up the 6th. And then here in the 7th, we got Miles Sanders, Russell Gage, obviously the aforementioned there, DeAndre Hopkins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, TJ Hawkinson, Tony Pollard, Tom Brady, Drake London, and now we are on the clock here with pick number 81 of this draft. And the thing I find interesting right now is I'm probably sitting here. I don't know how many guys right now don't have a tight end or don't have a quarterback. And that's kind of the situation I'm sitting in right now.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the board, we see 1, 2, 3, 4 people don't have a quarterback. So that pretty much means it's going to be go time for you and me to pick our first quarterback soon. I always like to go late quarterback unless I'm looking for a stack in this one. Like I said, I'm not too concerned with it. I was going to go Tom Brady if he fell to me. At the 8-11, that's clearly not happening since he went at 7-07. So I will look for some other guys as well. But this is nice. I like a nice start. This is a nice, pretty balanced start for both of us. And I think both our teams look very good heading into the 8th there.
Well, with the 8 or 9 quarterbacks that have kind of come off the board, I still feel comfortable with Dak Prescott, Matthew Stafford, Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, and I even feel comfortable with Kirk Cousins as my number 1 quarterback option. I don't think he gets nearly enough love. And with Kevin O'Connell coming there to run things there in Minnesota, I think we're going to see a much better offense out of the Vikings. And, hey, Kirk Cousins was pretty good last year. There's only a handful of quarterbacks that have done what Kirk Cousins has done with the ball over the last 3-4 seasons. And I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves. I mean, it really is a shame.
Yeah, and there was a lot of whispers that and not even just whispered, but people just blatantly talking about it. Mike Zimmer was not a fan of Kirk Cousins, and I don't think Kirk Cousins was a fan of Mike Zimmer. So now that Kevin O'Connell is there and is looking to really kind of modernize that Minnesota Vikings offense, kind of away from the run heavy look it has been, Justin Jefferson has said he's playing the Cooper Kupp role in that offense this year. That's going to be massive for him. Like I said, I still think Adam Thielen is very good. He's had 24 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons. That's absolutely massive. He's a guy who can still get 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns easy. Why are we drafting him as a back end wide receiver 3 when he clearly should be going in that top 25 range? And then let's not even forget about guys like KJ Osborne and Irv Smith, who are there as well and can still, produce nice weeks. So I'm definitely in on Kirk Cousins this year. I have him a couple spots higher than consensus. And, a guy like Derek Carr is pretty much on the same wavelength for me, with the new shiny toy and Devontae Adams that he has as well.
And you know what else people need to get in on? These underdog drafts right now. There's no better time than the present to do so by using promo code FANTASY, PTS. Hey, they will match 100% up to $100. Again, that's like free money. Who doesn't like free money here?
Yep. And let's not even, just not even the drafts, but all the other stuff that Underdog offers, all the prop bets that they offer, all the, the fun, different tournaments that they have a sports book potentially coming out. Underdog Fantasy is truly one of the best apps in fantasy sports right now. And we are giving you a prime opportunity to come in there and start off ahead of the crowd and double your money for free.
Hey, like I said, what the old man said to me when I was younger, anything free is worth saving up for. And hey, if you've got a chance to take it, do it right now. So Swags, absolutely. I'm seeing this right now. I'm picking before you. I just watched a couple quarterbacks coming off the board. This feels like a Dak Prescott type situation for me here right now. I mean, I was kind of disappointed. I was kind of eyeing Christian Kirk and Kadarius Toney because I think Christian Kirk is absolutely going to be a ball hog in that offense in Jacksonville.
Agreed.
I think with Doug Peterson coming over there, it's going to open things up there. But we also know Doug Peterson, hey, Philly special people, you know what's going on there. He's not afraid of using 2 tight ends from time to time, but we know Christian Kirk is going to be on that field. He got paid as a wide receiver 1. He's coming off a season which he had basically 100 targets there. He's never had a 1,000-yard season. I think this is the year for him in Duval County.
Yes, sir. And I went Derek Carr right after you. Like I said, this is time for us to pick both of our first quarterbacks. So I was perfectly okay with taking Derek Carr there. He is inside my top 12 this year. And I do believe he can probably throw for 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. And before I lose out, I got auto drafted, but it's okay. I took the wrong Kansas City player. I meant to take Sky Moore. I took Marquez Valdes-Scantling instead. Not upset with that because I do believe Marquez Valdes-Scantling is going to have a bigger role in the offense than people believe. He's been on the field with Mahomes a ton in minicamp so far. You do have to remember that he signed a $10 million a year deal for $30 million with the team. That, money talks. So, and you have to remember Juju Smith-Schuster's deal only for $1.5 million. So that's a big thing. And they have the rookie Sky Moore. That may take some time to get up to speed. So Marquez Valdes-Scantling is going to be right at home catching bombs from Patrick Mahomes, just the same way that he had with Aaron Rodgers for all those years.
Well, we're looking at a Kansas City offense that has basically 340 vacated targets, over 2,000 air yards that need to be replaced from the departure of Tyreek Hill there, essentially there, and some other pieces that kind of moved on in the offseason. So there is opportunity there for guys like Sky Moore, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Juju Smith-Schuster, even McCole Hardman. I don't think you're going to see any more bump up in value in Travis Kelce. He's going to get his each and every year. I mean, has there been a more consistent tight end with 1,000 yards receiving and 100 catches? I mean, that's basically what Travis Kelce is good for each and every year. I don't think he's ever had a season, except for maybe his rookie season, in which he didn't have 100 targets.
Yeah, and Travis Kelce is gonna ball out. We all know that. And I do think they're going to throw it a ton. This is not an offense where they look to run the ball. We do have to keep in mind that Ronald Jones is there. He's going to command a rushing share, and they may work, tweak some things a little bit, but this has always been a passing offense. And with the recent additions that the AFC West has made, the Broncos bring in Russell Wilson, the Raiders bring in Devontae Adams, and the Chargers bringing in, pretty much their whole team, which was always an electric passing offense. They're going to need to throw the ball still. I do think that we see Juju as the wide receiver 1, de facto wide receiver 1 in this offense. It'll always be Travis Kelce, who's the true wide receiver 1. But Valdes-Scantling should have a very significant role in that offense. And I expect Sky Moore to have a very significant role. He had one of the better reception perception mock-ups that I've seen off a wide receiver. Think about a guy who's 5'10", 185, but he has a 95% success rate versus press man coverage. That's almost unheard of, especially for a guy who's coming out of Western Michigan like that. So he may start off in the slot, but there are definitely opportunities that he could be used outside as well. So I'm a massive fan of Sky Moore. And like I said, I do think Valdes-Scantling will be on the other outside as well. And that should be a near every down roll for him.
Well, Patrick Mahomes is going to like himself some Sky Moore, because Sky Moore, he doesn't drop the ball. I think he had a 3.3% drop rate, which was about among the best in the class. It was either the best rate or the second best rate there. So he's going to earn that trust of Mahomes early here in training camp. I mean, Patrick Mahomes and Sky Moore, they've kind of worked things out here in the offseason. They've been together.
Absolutely.
We've seen it documented. I mean, it's good things. Good things are going to happen here with that Chiefs offense. I don't think they're any worse for wear without Tyreek Hill in it. I really don't. I think a lot of people looked at this as taking 2 steps back to take a step forward, but I think in reality, it's 1 step back to take 2 steps forward because they're able to bring in guys like Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Juju Smith-Schuster, draft a guy like Sky Moore. I mean, I think I'd rather have that bundle plus save that extra cash than hang on to Tyreek Hill. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and you have to remember, this is still an offense that's being run by Andy Reid, and Eric Bieniemy. So, these are two offensive gurus in the building. So I'm always okay with offenses that are run by very smart people. And I'm a longtime Andy Reid fan. Of course, me being a Philadelphia sports fan, I've seen him work up close for years. I mean, he's a very smart guy. He learns to make do with what he has. And even though I'm sure he's upset about not being able to scheme Tyreek Hill against people, we did see teams kind of adjust to play, deep, high cover 2 and, play safeties high against Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill in order to combat that. And we kind of saw them figure him out a little bit. So this is Kansas City's way of saying, well, you figured us out once. Let's see if you can figure us out again. And this time it's going to be a heavy, heavy dose of Travis Kelce. And then they mix it up a little bit, throw it downfield with Marquez Valdes-Scantling, let Juju open up the middle of the field, and then let Sky Moore with the soft hands wreck around the edges as well.
You know the best thing about you timing out last round and missing your pick?
Well, that's great. And if I had known Sky Moore was going to last all the way to you there, I would have made sure I picked him first there. But what I am also happy about, and I'm not even worried about it, you heard me talking up Ronald Jones last round. Well, here I am taking him as my RB3 here, and the once former running mate of my RB1 and Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones, now comes to Kansas City. And I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire, his time is quickly running out. Jerick McKinnon looked much better than him coming down the stretch and was much better than him in the playoffs. They brought him back on a free agent deal. They signed Ronald Jones. The clock is ticking on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And for me to be able to get Ronald Jones at that RB40 price point, that's really solid. Working to build out the rest of my team here. I'm going to go ahead and take the running mate of one of your favorite wide receiver picks in Garrett Wilson. And, my thing with Garrett Wilson is he was a very good route runner coming into the league. Obviously drafted 10th to the Jets this year. And look, he gets a big chance to go and play with Zach Wilson, who is looking to make his own case to be one of the better rookie quarterbacks from last year after kind of a disaster of a first year. I'm really looking forward for Garrett Wilson to make an impact real quick. What do you think about that?
I think have we ever not talked about a top 10 drafted wide receiver as little as we've talked about Garrett Wilson this offseason? I mean, we're talking about a guy who was a top 10 drafted wide receiver in the NFL draft back in April, and we are simply not talking about him. I think it's a shame. I mean, I would have probably taken him here instead over Sky Moore, except for the fact I already had Elijah Moore already. So more is the better, and lost Jets. I'm not, like I said, I don't like to take that risk. And I feel taking too many Jets could be a huge risk, especially in these best ball drafts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You want to maximize upside and cut away your risk. More your leverage in these places. And too many Jets could leave you definitely behind the 8 ball to start. We're kind of seeing, guys fly more off the board now as we get, into the back end of this draft. Got a couple quarterbacks that just went. Trevor Lawrence, Aaron Rodgers just went. I mean, what do you think about Aaron Rodgers this year? Is he going to suffer from Davante Adams going on? You've seen his stats without Davante Adams, right?
Yeah, and not all stats are created equally. So we know what Aaron Rodgers can do without Davante Adams. And here's the kicker. When you look at a lot of Aaron Jones's numbers there, if you look at the splits, Aaron Jones was getting production when guys like Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Allen Lazard, and Davante Adams were all out of the lineup. There were times when it wasn't just Davante Adams out of the lineup and Aaron Rodgers was producing. He was doing this without other weapons involved in this offense at all. So I'm not worried about Aaron Rodgers and what he's able to do. Plus, there's a rookie there, not named Christian Watson, that I really like in Green Bay that I think is going to be a nice sleeper here. Especially if you look at these best ball drafts, a guy to take in that 18th round. I mean, basically, he's free right now. If he's even getting drafted in a lot of these best balls, I'm not going to say his name because I'm hoping to get him a little bit later. But now that you got him, I might have to reach for him around sooner. So
I'm
not worried about Aaron Rodgers at all and what he's going to be able to do. It's Aaron Rodgers.
I do like that player a lot. He was very good when you looked at some of his college tape coming off, playing with Carson Strong out there, and he's a very good player. And I do think it's a good point of you to point out that he was much more pro ready than Christian Watson coming into the league. And I think the Packers realize that. So I do think that we see him a good bit in preseason. I think they want to see what they have in him as well. So I do think we're going to see kind of a duel between Christian Watson and this unnamed player as well to see who can get on the field quicker. And honestly, it wouldn't shock me if the player won out, because I personally think Christian Watson was the most raw rookie to come out of this draft. And I think he was drafted a lot higher than he should have been. And I do think that he's, it's perfect for him to get to work with Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron Rodgers is very picky about who he trusts. So it wouldn't shock me to see him get slotted behind that rookie.
And do you know who I trust when it comes to best ball and best ball rankings? FantasyPoints.com. They've got it all right there. If you want to get into these best ball drafts, head to FantasyPoints.com. It is all labeled right there in their projections, in their rankings, and they've got a special tab there to click for best ball. And hey, if you want to save a little extra money, we're all about saving money. Use promo code Vipers22. That'll get you 10% off that subscription. And then you can take that money that you save there and you can put it on to Underdog using promo code FantasyPTS, and they'll match you up to $100. So, hey, there's all kinds of savings to be had just by listening to the show today.
Yes, sir. Saving money is the best.
Hey, you don't even have to go to Geico to get this kind of deal. That's how good things are here with Fantasy Points. You get all kinds of savings here.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm looking at things here right now, and I watched a couple of my guys kind of go off the board there. I kind of follow Coach Speak a little bit there. And one of the things that Barrett does very well is he kind of used to follow that Coach Speak here in training camp. So that's probably going to come out again here pretty soon. But Nyheim Hines, we've heard the coaches talk about him. They literally said, if I was playing fantasy football, I would draft Nyheim Hines. When the coach says that, you kind of listen a little bit. But one of the guys I need to listen to right now is I got to get one of my guys here. I got to get on the bus with Gus Edwards. We're talking about the end of the 12th round here right now. And I only had 3 running backs, so I kind of figured I need a little bit more balance there. But regardless of where J.K. Dobbins is, whether you're believing the reports coming from Ian Rappaport, whether you're believing what's coming out of J.K. Dobbins' mouth on Twitter, it doesn't matter. The way I've always looked at it is both Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins are both coming off of injuries. Both players are going to be eased back into this workload, so they're both going to split the carries. That's what's going to happen. They split the carries last time they were together back in 2020, and now they're back, and then you're going to see them split carries right there. And I think that's good value this late in a best ball.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I went with Jahan Dotson to start, and to finish my cycle, I'm going to go with something that I normally don't do, but I'm going to take Devontae Parker. If you listen to the radio, that our boss, John Hansen, had Mike Reese on from the Patriots this morning, and Reese dropped some pretty interesting nuggets. Like that the fact that the Patriots prefer to have Devontae Parker and Nelson Aguilar on the field when they're running 2 wide receiver sets this year. So Devontae Parker speaks to me as a guy that we saw flash for 1 year in Miami and hasn't really done much else due to injuries and such. But the Patriots have a knack of making guys very efficient on their teams, and I believe that Parker can make something happen here. And for my other pick, I went Jahan Dotson. He's going to be the wide receiver 2 for the Commanders this year behind Terry McLaurin. And look, we may be kind of underrating McLaurin a little bit. He's going in the 60s here, and he was a first-round draft pick. So where's his respect coming from? And, I do believe that Dotson is a very good player. He was very good at Penn State. He has very safe hands. He's a good route runner. I believe that Wentz and him can make some points happen early and often this year.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the board here, and if you wouldn't mind just pulling it back up here, we're seeing some good value. We see a little bit of a late tight end run go down there, and of course, teams are getting that second quarterback in. Teams are getting that second tight end here now. Looking for that value here. Is there any player right now that you're seeing as an absolute screaming value this late?
Ooh, let's see. The ones that have already gone. Ones that have already gone or ones that are still on the board here?
Whatever you want to go with on that.
Let's see. I do like the fact that KJ Osborne is still on the board. I like Joshua Palmer on the board. I like guys who are coming from good offenses that I know are going to put points on the board. To see both of them still on the board this late is nice to see. But as far as a value, I think we could see Matt Ryan be a lot better than people think he is. Well, not think he is. We already know how good Matt Ryan's been, but people are underrating him just a little bit because he's gone to Indianapolis, which is pretty much regarded as a run first offense. But Michael Pittman is a guy that I could definitely see squeak his way into the top 10 wide receivers this year. He was extremely efficient last year, and that was with Carson Wentz having some very uncharacteristically bad games at the end of the year. You add a guy like Alec Pierce in the second round as a guy who can be a field stretcher. You add in, making Nyheim Hines a bigger part of the offense. And you added Jelani Woods in the third round as the big hulking 6'8" tight end out of college. So I believe Matt Ryan could definitely be one of the better quarterbacks. He could honestly challenge for back end QB1 production this year. You are muted there, my friend.
This usually happens at least once a show there. So, I'm looking at some of these other quarterbacks currently on the board. The Daniel Jones, the Mac Jones, the Jared Goffs, the Davis Mills. There's still some good number 2 type quarterbacks still available there, right? If you've already got we've talked about there's a good solid 12 to 13 that you feel comfortable with there, kind of running your team where you feel, okay, I can good here at the quarterback position. I can kind of wait on that now. But we are watching guys that double tap. There's one guy that I think double tap the Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. What are your thoughts on grabbing 2 top, let's call it top 5 quarterbacks?
Yeah, I wonder if that guy, thought that he was getting some massive value out of the Superflex draft where everyone just forgot it was Superflex. But, we have seen, something like this before. Guys have gone a little bit crazy in their valuations for a quarterback in Underdog. There are some numbers that have shown that it is great to draft 2 solid quarterbacks in Underdog, even in these 1 quarterback leagues. But I think he took that a little bit too much to heart in this by drafting Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and potentially missed out on some value there. Guys like Adam Thielen, Elijah Moore. He needed, he started off with running back, wide receiver, which isn't bad, but he could have missed, he missed out on getting, like a TJ Hawkinson at the tight end position. He missed out on, upgrading his wide receiver core. So, you can take the quarterback there, but it's not something that I would do. I think it was a little bit of a risky move, and he may have screwed himself on some value there. But I finally get one of my favorite running backs this year to hammer in those middle rounds, and Kenny Gainwell. And if you know me, like I said earlier in the show, I am a massive Philadelphia fan, and I see the writing on the wall with Miles Sanders. If you saw a couple of weeks ago, Miles Sanders said, if you like fantasy points, don't draft me. And that's not a slight at, his game not being where it is. It's kind of at the Eagles for, being very, spread out with how they give carries to their running back core. And I do think with Gainwell having been a rookie last year, I do believe they're going to work at bringing him in on some more carries this year. And again, he is a great pass catcher there. So let's see. You took Evan Ingram.
I did take Evan Ingram with 1503. And this is because I believe in Doug Peterson more than I believe in Evan Ingram. Now, I think Evan Ingram's still going to drop balls. That's still going to be a problem. That's still going to be his thing here. But I feel comfortable with – I don't have that stud tight end here. I got Mike Gesicki, I got Albert O, and now I just kind of added Evan Ingram here. It's kind of a mismatch of tight ends. It's really the tight end wasteland is basically on my roster right now. However, if there's anyone that can get Evan Ingram back to what he did back in his rookie season, it's Doug Peterson, because Doug Peterson likes those 12 personnels, having those multiple tight ends on the field. And if Evan Ingram can get on the field, that means there's an opportunity for him to produce. And here in the 15th round, I'm just looking for anyone that can give me some production. I look at what the top of the board is here, the tight end, Cameron Brate. Austin Hooper could be a good value there. Logan Thomas, I don't expect him back anytime soon because of that injury. Taysom Hill, whatever. And then a wide receiver. I'm not falling in love with these names here right now either as far as upside. And, of course, you know exactly what the running back is. You just went Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, James Robinson is near the top, but we got no guarantee that James Robinson is going to be ready at any time this season recovering from that Achilles injury, right? So you're sitting here. We've got Cam Akers. We've seen what Cam Akers was able to do and how quickly he was able to come back. But when he came back, he still wasn't explosive. He still wasn't productive, even though the LA Rams gave him every opportunity to produce. I mean, when you're the Rams running back, you're going to get nearly 90% of the snaps. It's just that simple. You're not going to get that in Jacksonville with Travis Etienne. So James Robinson, even if he comes back, it may be only to spell Travis Etienne from time to time to kind of protect him from the rigors of running between the tackles every single game. That might be the only time you see James Robinson come in as that kind of that bruising type back, short yardage kind of guy while he's still trying to recover himself.
Yep, and I definitely agree there. You're purely looking for value at this point. A guy like Evan Engram is by far, in a way, the best option you could have there because, look, you have to imagine the Jaguars' offense gets better, and it's true that Doug Peterson does love targeting the tight ends. He just loves passing the ball to anybody that's open, and with the mishmash of talent that the Jaguars have added this season, it's as good a bet as any that Engram will be able to beat out Dan Arnold there. Let's see. Looking around, we have some interesting values. George Pickens, notable rookie that was drafted in the second round, is still there. Paris Campbell is still there. People still think that he has a good shot. J.D. McKissick is still there. We have guys like Kendrick Bourne and Will Fuller and Julio Jones. Can we talk about how Will Fuller was signed to a 1-year prove-it deal in Miami, never proved it, and is just out there in the ether now?
Well, if you're not going to prove it, then you're not going to get the deal. It's that simple. I mean,
hey, that finger injury, that must have been life-threatening.
It very well could be. I mean, we're talking about Cam Akers basically recovering from an ACL tear in less time than it took Will Fuller to recover from a finger injury. Now, I'm no doctor here, and I'll leave that up to Edwin here on Fantasy Points to kind of make those diagnoses. But, I mean, it is what it is. It seems a little far-fetched to believe that he still hasn't been able to get back. And dang nabbit there, Bretsky. Marlon Mack was that guy I was kind of targeting here to come back all the way here in the late 16th round, because at this point, he could be the starting running back. Is he better than Dameon Pierce? No, but if you're getting the 2019 version or a portion of that 2019 season from Marlon Mack, who was a 1,000-yard rusher, then maybe Marlon Mack can still hold off Dameon Pierce for 6, 7, 8 games to start the season. But you got to remember, these Houston Texans running backs were only averaging like 3.3 yards per carry last year.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, look, when Dameon Pierce was drafted, I was extremely enthused. We said it all along. That was the place that a lot of people wanted Breece Hall to land, was the Texans, because in people's eyes, the Texans go down quick. They have to throw the ball to keep up. Any running back that's there that can catch is automatically a good fantasy option because they'll get a lot of snaps right away. But, the problem with that is they're not high quality of snaps. And, a lot of it's going to depend on Davis Mills taking another step in his second year in the league. We saw him have arguably one of the best rookie seasons of any rookie quarterback last year from that 2021 class. You can probably argue the only one better than him was Mac Jones. And, I do believe that Mills will take a step forward. That class does become, or that offense does become a little more interesting. Late in the draft, I'm looking for guys that will be on the field pretty often. J.D. McKissick is a guy for me because Steve 82620 took Raheem Mostert, and I was looking for him as my target of that Miami Dolphins backfield. One of the most ambiguous backfields that I've ever seen, but J.D. McKissick is definitely going to get some run. He's the wanted pass catcher from that Washington backfield. So I'm okay there. With my second pick, I am going to go with Wan'Dale Robinson, who, and people mocked this pick when the Giants took him in the second round. Remember they took Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal at 5 and 6, and people said the Giants won the draft. The Giants won the draft. They won the first round. And then they went in and they picked Wan'Dale Robinson about almost 2 rounds earlier than people thought he was going to go. And people kind of lost their minds there. I think Wan'Dale Robinson is really good, despite the fact that he's only 5'7" and weighs about 175 pounds. I'm okay with that because he's the type of guy that you throw the ball to on quick screens, quick slants, and just let him electrify the field, kind of like we saw Kadarius Toney last year.
Yeah, and you know what? If you want electric analysis here, you got to head to fantasypoints.com, right? It's that simple. The one-stop shop for all your fantasy football needs, from projections to articles to everything. If you're gearing up for your 2022 redraft season, head to fantasypoints.com. Tell them Matt sent you. You know the promo code already, Vipers22. You're not going to regret it. I mean, it is one of the best bang for your buck shot out there right now. So, and again, we'd be remiss here if we didn't mention the underdog code here as well. Fantasy PTS. They will match 100% of your first deposit there, up to $100. That's 4 BBMs. We got puppies coming August 1st. I mean, you want puppies? We got puppies. And those are, how many puppies?
Everyone loves puppies. Everyone loves puppies.
Are cute. I mean, they're a lot better than kittens, right? I mean, let's be honest here. So now we are just about gearing up the back end of the 17th round. I think everyone's kind of looking for those running back pairings, right? You got Mark Ingram coming off the board. D'Onta Foreman. I mean, Mark Ingram, we still don't know, like I said, what that situation is going to be like with Alvin and Kamara there. I think Alvin Kamara is going to avoid suspension, so I'm not too worried about Mark Ingram there. Actually, I kind of like Abrams a little bit better as far as the running backs.
Yeah, Abram Smith.
New Orleans.
Yeah,
D'Onta Foreman,
very good.
D'Onta Foreman may be the number 2 running back there in Carolina behind Christian McCaffrey. I know Chuba Hubbard's a good old Canadian boy like myself, and I would really want him to be that guy. But I think D'Onta Foreman, we've seen what he did when Derrick Henry went down. That Titans run game did not miss a beat last year. So D'Onta Foreman is a fantastic addition. I don't know why he was not re-signed there. I mean, he basically signed in Carolina for like $2 million. I don't know what Tennessee was thinking there. They got themselves Hassan Haskins, but seriously, man, some questionable decisions in my opinion.
Yeah, D'Onta Foreman looked worlds better than Dontrell Hilliard did when the two were splitting time after Derrick Henry went down last season. Getting D'Onta Foreman as your backup to Christian McCaffrey and someone who you could potentially give, upwards of 125 carries to just to make sure that CMC kind of stays healthy, but still sees a healthy amount of receiving work. That's a gold mine in a guy like Foreman, who has not only shown us that he can be, a good pass catcher in the early parts of his career, he also can run the ball as well. And, he gets that kind of rebuilding offense type in Carolina to go sit behind McCaffrey and spell him when he needs to.
So we've just watched Kendrick Bourne, Will Fuller and his finger. That came off the board there at 17-12. To start the 18th round, Curtis Samuel, A.J. Green. I was hoping he was going to be my 18th round selection. Why? Because he is basically the placeholder for DeAndre Hopkins. Once Hopkins comes back, A.J. Green goes out. A.J. Green was effective when Hopkins was out of the lineup last season there. He was more than startable, so to speak. I know Zach Ertz is still going to be there. By the way, if you're in a league right now and you've got Zach Ertz, you've got a 6-week sell period right now on Zach Ertz. He's going to get 24% of those targets. He's going to get all kinds of attention there right now.
Yep.
This is your time. If you're looking for that window, take advantage of it while DeAndre Hopkins is there to try and move him for some younger assets. Now I'm looking back here, 1806, 1805. I mean, there's some good young players coming here. CJ Uzomah there. Isaiah McKenzie, Trey McBride, Brian Edwards is another interesting one for me. He hasn't panned out with the Vegas Raiders. He was basically traded for nothing to Atlanta. I mean, he automatically becomes the 3rd best receiving option in Atlanta. I mean, maybe Cordell Patterson is still a better receiving option.
Do you want the 3rd best receiving option in Atlanta, though? I mean, like, let's think about that offense there with Marcus Mariota. Like, realistically, how many receiving options can he support outside of Kyle Pitts and Drake London and Cordell Patterson when you think about it? I just don't think it's worth it there. And, we haven't seen Edwards do anything with his opportunity when he was the option in Las Vegas. I just don't see it happening now either.
So I got a question here. I'm on the clock here. I'm getting ready here. I'm waiting for Zamir White to come off the board. How many tight ends is too many tight ends? You might as well get him off your queue because that's where I'm going here with this pick. So I'm trying to buy you some time here to find a good player replacement. I've had in my queue guys like Terrace Marshall, John Michie, Brevin Jordan, and Romeo Dubes. And Brevin Jordan is one of my guys. I've talked about him on series here as my dynasty mustache kind of player. We're talking about a guy who was pretty dominant from weeks 12 to 16 for the Texans. We know the Texans are going to have to throw. We know Davis Mills in 10 starts. He played 12 games last year, but in his 10 starts, he had a 68% completion percentage, which would have been the best completion percentage by a rookie of all time. I think he ended up with 66.7 or something when it was all said and done because of those other 2 games that got added in there. But you're talking about a guy who's going to be completing passes, and you've got a dare I say the Texans are pretty much an underrated pass catching group. Brevin Jordan, John Michie, Nico Collins, Brandon Cooks. I mean, sure, I've got the Brandon Cooks and actually I've got the full Texan stack. How does that make you feel? I got Davis Mills, Brandon Cooks, Brevin Jordan, the triple stacker.
Yeah, that stack has been a fun one for me to target in tournaments late because you can get that Davis Mills, Nico Collins, Brevin Jordan stack 16th, 17th, 18th round. And if you had the foresight, you could grab Dameon Pierce in the 12th round to go alongside it. You can grab one of the most ugly stacks that will undoubtedly make you some money in January when we are deciding these Best Ball Mania and Puppy Tournament playoffs, because that Texan stack goes well underlooked by the vast majority of people. And the reality is this: they're going to have to throw a lot and they're going to have to get involved. And Nico Collins is one of my favorite, guys who might not necessarily break out this year, but he definitely should have an increased role this year as that wide receiver 2 in that offense. But that was a good draft for both of us.
Yeah, you know what? I don't even know what my draft looks like yet. I won't even look at this probably for another 2-3 weeks and see what it actually looks like before the season kicks off, if that. But I will be playing plenty of Underdog. You know why? Because I went out there and I used promo code, and it's a true story. I used the promo code myself, Fantasy PTS, and they matched what I deposited. And you can do the same thing up to $100. And of course, hey, training camp's kicking off here right now. We got the off-season points going on. Pretty soon it's going to be in-season points, and you're going to want to get on that franchise focus series right now over there. Barrett, Barfield, Hansen, Huber. These are some of the biggest names in fantasy right now, and you get them all in one article, each and every article, all 32 teams, and you can do it by going to fantasypoints.com and using promo code Vipers22. With that all being said, hey, this has been the Fantasy Points Underdog Best Ball Draft. I'm Matt Donnelly. This is Sam Wagman. That's at Swagman95. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next week.